Hey Tyler, how you doing today?
Good. How you doing, Tom? Thanks for
Oh,
having me, man.
yeah, I'm doing well. It's Memorial Day on the day that we're posting this, so I think this is a extra special military type video going on today. So,
Yes, I'm honored.
hey, I'm happy to have you here.
Thanks, man.
So a little intro about myself. I retired from the Navy after 20 years in November of 19, out of Augusta, Georgia. I moved to Denver, Colorado in January 20 to work with Lockheed Martin. And this is my 10th episode today. So you get the magic 10 going on today
Right on.
for the 30 vets and 30 days hashtag we got going on right now. And I'm talking with Tyler today. And my goal today is to go ahead and put a person behind a picture that people see on LinkedIn and how people can know who Tyler is. So when you start applying for some jobs or you start conversating with some people on LinkedIn, people are like, oh, hey, I saw this guy on video. Wow, look at that. So who is Tyler?
Well, I appreciate you asking me that, and I'm glad to be a part of this channel. And thanks for what you're doing for all the vets, man, because it's not an easy transition. And yeah, hopefully people can know a little bit more about me besides my LinkedIn picture and my giant five head that I got going on. So uh, so yeah, man, I'm currently a full-time contractor. I am a part-time reserve, so I'm a weekend warrior. Occasionally, I throw in my pickle suit, as I call it. That's the flight suit. I was a UAV pilot for 7 years. I commissioned in 2014 from the University of Virginia. I was a crosstown cadet from Liberty University. That's where I got my undergrad degree in sports medicine, and then eventually would do my MBA with them as well. So I've had a lot of experience in the intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance world, and now what I currently do is I instruct over 800 plus students a year in the Air Force, Marine Corps, URA, and international students as well. So and that ranges from French, Dutch, Spanish, Italian students. So pretty cool. I get to work with a diverse set of clients, and I get to mentor different people every single day in my job. So yeah, I'm thankfully I'm employed while I'm going through this transition process, which makes it a lot less stressful. So
Wow, that sounds really cool. You get to work with a lot of international. So I've been international for a long time. I've lived in Japan for almost 12 years and visited all the countries all over Asia, everywhere from Japan down to Australia to India, back to Japan, kind of thing, right? So I see a little bit of the Asian world.
yeah,
Something I always like to try to pick up every country I go to. I like to try to learn a word and know
yeah.
what it means. What type of word would you have that you may have learned from talking with these students, or lingo, or what type of really cool word would you call it that you've been able to
Sure.
pick up from talking with any one of these students?
Yeah. So I also work with a lot of United Kingdom students, and one of the students was telling me some of the terms that they use when they get absolutely hammered drunk, and they call it like microwaved, or they go, I'm absolutely refrigerated. And that, it's English still, but refrigerated, we don't typically say that when we're hammered. So I thought that was pretty funny. But boy, those guys and gals are like excellent pilots.
Wow,
I always joke that they're hand chosen by the Queen to come to the US and do the
nice.
training pipeline. So
Maybe.
yeah, they're good. they're good guys. But yeah, I've had a great experience working with all them, and I've occasionally my wife is from Mexico City, so I know quite a bit of Spanish, and I like to
Nice.
instruct students from Puerto Rico and Spain. I try to converse in Spanish with them, and they definitely appreciate it, because aviation in itself is a whole nother lingo, man. I mean, it's in English, but at the same time, there's I remember going through training like, what the heck does that mean, and it's just another language, and it's really cool to share that experience and my experiences with these students who are trying to learn how to fly. So
Awesome. So Speaking of education and certifications, you have a little bit of education going on, don't you?
I do, yeah. My passion in college was sports medicine, and I wanted to be a physical therapist after college, but I ended up joining the Air Force. My best friend Brandon Lewis, he actually got me into Air Force ROTC. And a little history about me and my family is I had my grandfather was a B-24 navigator in World War II, and
Oh,
his two brothers were also fighter pilots over Germany. So he inspired me to become an officer. So I got my degree, I commissioned, and nobody in my, other than my grandfather, nobody in my direct family has served in the military. So I was truly honored to like follow in his footsteps. And my best friend Brandon in college, he was the one who got me into ROTC. And if I'd have never met that dude, I mean, who knows where I would be right now. So shout out to him. I still talk to him this day. He's the godfather of my son.
nice.
So, but yeah, education. I was there at Liberty University with him, studying sports medicine, commissioned, and then it's amazing what the Air Force can do because they can teach you how to fly a plane in 2 weeks. In my case, by myself, and I'm no passion for aviation really, and they taught me how to safely take off and land and not kill myself in a plane
There we go.
in about 2 weeks. And just a couple months ago, I was studying exercise science stuff. So I also got my MBA while I was on active duty
Nice.
through the tuition assistance that the Air Force offers. And I currently mentor a lot of students that I see, especially young airmen that don't have a degree, because I work with one enlisted and one officer every single day. And when I instruct them, and I'm like, guys, you got to get your education. The Air Force literally pays for your education with tuition assistance. So I paid $75 out of pocket for 1 3-credit master's course. So I got my MBA while I was working shift work, flying the line in man, it was tough, but I'm glad I did it. And I was a full-time student. I took nine credits, 3 classes, and it was worth it, man. Because my whole degree cost me maybe $800, $850, something like that. So certification wise, I'm PMP certified.
Oh, wow.
So the Air Force, I show up day one and they go, "We want you to be the best pilot you can be." And I go, "Okay, sweet, I'll do that." But they also throw a bunch of additional duties at you, of course. And I'm sure that's the same in the Navy and all the other branches.
Very
which,
much
of course,
so, yeah.
yeah, I mean, and as a new guy or gal starting out as a young airman or a young second lieutenant or ensign or whatever they call it in the Navy, you do it, because you got the drive and you're motivated and you're fresh, and so I did a lot of extra additional duties that were projects, and I essentially just was like, you know what, if I'm doing all these things, I'm going to use it to my benefit. So I tallied up all the projects I had, all the hours I worked, and I submitted my application to PMI, and it took me 6 months, but I studied every day and passed the PMP. And
Wow.
boy, that thing was a doozy. I also have, I'm a certified Scrum Master, and I started pursuing that through studying for the PMP. And I go, what's this Scrum stuff called? And a lot of folks in the IT industry are using it. And I feel like businesses and organizations are like, we don't know what Scrum is, but we need it, and so I enjoyed learning that. I took a class offered by a man named Brad Swanson. He's out in Denver, Colorado, like you, and he puts on online courses for these certifications through the Scrum Alliance. And I got to network and meet a lot of great people, primarily in the Denver area, but also throughout the world, which was really cool. And I ended up going back for another certification for agile leadership. So certified agile leadership in organizations and certified agile leadership in essentials. Basically talks about different leadership styles in an agile environment. So yeah, those are the main certifications in education that I have. And yeah.
Wow. That sounds impressive to me.
And I'm studying for CompTIA Security Plus.
Oh,
right
wow.
now. So yeah,
Nice.
Bridging into the cyber world, because I've had a little bit of experience with that active duty. So
That's the one word I understood that you said. No, I'm just
Gotcha.
kidding.
Nice.
Awesome. So talk a little bit about what you did in the military. Do you want to keep doing that, or what is your next idea or dream or job title you want to try to go for?
Sure. So the job title I currently have been applying for in the past couple months is more so project management, program manager. I have a strong passion for leadership. Every day I go into work, I love working with the people that I work with, and I get to impact people's lives like in a
Nice.
positive way. And
Nice.
I try to leave my ego at the door when I go into when I instruct a student, you know, because it's the military, right? It's a pretty intimidating environment, and they see countless instructors throughout their time going through the training pipeline and for undergraduate pilot training, and it's a very stressful time for them. I mean, I went through it, so I try to back down and get on their level and go, hey, remember what it was like, Tyler, when you were going through that program, right? Like if you have this giant wall up and I know all this stuff, why don't you know this XYZ? How come you're not doing this? Like nobody's gonna open up to you and ask you questions, and they don't want to learn from you, you know. And I think it's like that in a private sector organization, where if you're just the guy or gal that's kind of, you know, that doesn't leave their ego at the door, then you're asking for trouble, and you know you're not a team player. So I try to approach that. I try to approach every day I go into work from a humble standpoint, and I really do try to go out of my way and you know help students. So so technically, I'm going for project management, more leadership style positions as far as what I do now. So I'm a UAV pilot instructor. I wouldn't be opposed to doing that. I do think the military is trying to, the big military DoD is trying to scale back a little bit of what we do, and that's fine for budget purposes and all that, and need for the next maybe near peer fight one day. And that's fine, but I love what I do, and I would certainly love to do it on the outside, but I would not mind branching into something else, maybe cybersecurity or intelligence roles and project management type positions, which would be awesome. I do have a lot of experience in AI, you know, robotics. I mean, I worked with unmanned systems, so I've done a lot of great things and a lot of cool things that I never thought I would do. So I don't want to maybe market myself as a jack of all trades, but I certainly have kind of built a foundation of like, hey, I know a lot of skill sets and I know a lot of different things, and I'm ready to bring that to the table and get after it. So
Awesome. So I think we just met recently within the last week or so, but what can you say about maybe our first conversation we had, or do we even talk at all, or we just hit up one day on LinkedIn and say, hey, this is who I am?
yeah, so for all the veterans out there, or maybe my brothers and sisters in the Air Force that are thinking of transitioning, Tom's a great guy. I just met him last week. I go, who's this guy that works for Lockheed Martin, you know? And I looked you up on the LinkedIn, and I was like, holy smokes, you know, this guy's got 20 years in the Navy, and he seems like he knows what he's doing, and he's interviewing a vet 30 vets in 30 days. So I was like, let me jump on that, you know. And it is about who you know, and I'm glad that you reached out, and you know, you were one of the first guys I contacted as far as like, hey, you know, I'm looking for employment in the San Antonio area, and maybe you can help me out. And I got put in touch with you, and through the LinkedIn Mill City and the K.E.Y mentorship program on LinkedIn that I attended, and that was awesome. So I've you know, this is the first step in my journey, and you know, I appreciate the time you take to get to know these veterans, and like you said, put a face and a story behind the picture on LinkedIn.
So speaking of that, you mentioned LinkedIn Mill City. You mentioned the Key, which I think is phenomenal. Granted, I'm probably biased a little bit, but I think they're phenomenal organizations.
Yeah.
What other organizations or people that I'm sure a lot of organizations, people, maybe webinars you attended that helped you get to where you are today? Did you remember any of those, or writing those things down?
Yeah, absolutely. So first one that comes to mind is this lady that I met at Squadron Officer School when I went to Maxwell Air Force Base in Alabama. Basically Squadron Officer School, or SOS they call it. This was right as COVID was like happening, or still in Wuhan at the time. And so I was in person, and 700 captains in the Air Force from all over the world go to attend this professional military education that I went to. And we had a civilian in my class, and her name was Amarilys Silva. And she is actually poor lady was her and 12 Air Force active duty officers. So I give her credit for hanging out with us for 2 months. But she's actually the skills bridge coordinator for Joint Base San Antonio, and I think she works at Lackland. Yeah, so nice. She's the one that put me in contact with Team Domingo and LinkedIn Mill City and the K.E.Y, and then that's where I kind of started looking around, and I found guys like you, and I was like, let me hit you up. And so she was probably the one that I reached out to first, and was like, hey, I'm thinking about moving to the San Antonio area. What, do you know anybody? What's going on? And I didn't know that she took over and started that position as the skills bridge coordinator. So that was awesome. And that's also right there. Yeah, and just a couple other. So I mentioned LinkedIn Mill City, the K.E.Y, Team Domingo. I appreciate what they're doing. They seem like awesome people.
They are awesome people. They are.
And let's see. The guy I mentioned earlier, Brad Swanson, he was the Scrum Alliance guy that got me kind of talking to some folks out in Colorado. Lady that works for Sierra Nevada Corp. Her name's Jessica Halla. She was great. She's been helping me a little bit with the transition process. And I don't know if I can move to Denver. It's a little too cold, but maybe.
Go buy a jacket.
Yeah, it's not me. I grew up in New England, but it's the wife. That not a lot of snow in Mexico City, but
right.
So
that is true.
So yeah, those are some folks that have helped me a lot, and I'm truly grateful. So
awesome. Well, so we already talked a little bit about your passion, I think. So in this whole journey you've had, are there any struggles or stress that may be going on with a transition, or knowing who to connect with on a transition, or things you wish you would have been told 6 months ago, but you now finding out about?
Sure. Yeah. So I would say overall, the stress has not been bad. I know it is probably a really stressful time for a lot of people that are trying to transition, but honestly, my biggest beef with the transition part is like, I wish a lot more veterans knew about the Veterati program, or had a mentor like yourself to be like, hey, here's the things you need to think about, maybe 6 months or to a year out, that you need to start doing before you separate. And, some people get lucky, they get jobs right away, right? Which is awesome. But I was like, man, I cannot leave the military with just, a bachelor's in science. And, I was with pilot experience, and so I'm like, I got to go get my MBA. I got to go get my PMP. I got to, bridge the gap a little bit to get into the civilian world. And if that's what I want to do. And I decided that 3 years ago, and it's kind of tough for people because they don't really know what they want to do. And by the time they want to push the button and separate, it's a little too late, but not too late, but it's, I wish they would have maybe done some things earlier. But the transition for me was great. I applied to the same exact job that I do every day, except I wear a polo. And, I went over to the guy, I gave him my resume paper, and he didn't even look at it. He just goes, when can you start? So that was a huge blessing for me. And I was very fortunate. And, I did do the part-time reserve gig, just as kind of like a backup. Mm-hmm. And, they have great benefits in the reserve too. So I decided to go that route. So it hasn't been super stressful. I just wish, and a lot of people on active duty, I'm not knocking them, but they just don't know the process either, because they're not getting out. Some of them are staying in, and whether that's a squadron commander or a director of operations or whatever, they just don't know the process, and like, as far as VA claims, like, how do we do disability? How do we, separate? It's actually, I always joked when I was separating the Air Force, I would joke with my friends that would see me walking around, and they're like, oh, Arnold's getting out. He's getting out. And And I have a lot of friends, a lot of great officers and enlisted that I worked with that are also getting out. And it's kind of like just follow the leader, right? Like you see one person get out and you go, hey, what did you do? Blah, blah, blah. And then we just spread the knowledge down the line, you know, and it's kind of, I don't think that's how it should be, you know, because I feel like there should be, like, we do have taps and everything, and cool,
Sure.
those things are helpful, but you know, actually going through it is a whole nother beast. I mean, I always joked how it's much harder to leave the military than it is to join it, you know. And I mean,
so.
that I don't know, that could be up for debate, but it was a huge checklist I had. And of course, COVID, and nobody's in their office, and I'm calling and I'm like, hey, I'm separating in 2 weeks. And I started this process, you know, 4 months ago, like clicking the button. And so that part was a little stressful. But as far as job hunting now, I guess the most difficult thing is, like, I know I can perform in an organization. I know I'm a team player, and I know I can get along with just about anybody, man. And, you know, could I go be a heart surgeon tomorrow? No. But would I be willing to, like, learn how to do it and eventually become a heart surgeon? Absolutely. You know, like, I can put in the work ethic to do it. And that's the tough part, because you're putting your whole life on one piece of paper, you know, on a resume. And it's like, I hope, you know, I get by the first part where the system just picks up the keywords, or however the company does it, and then getting like a face to it, to where I can get to the interview and be like, hey, look, I can offer XYZ, and, you know, think you should consider me. So that's probably been the most difficult part, I guess.
So speaking of employment, when are you available?
Yeah, so I'm available anytime. Currently, me and my wife are looking to transition, move to the San Antonio area. Her family lives in northern San Antonio. I did some training there back in 2014 for about a year, and I fell in love with the place, man. It's like the perfect amount of military, community, and Tex-Mex, and I love it.
Nice.
And where I currently live now, it doesn't rain much. And I know a lot of people in San Antonio are like, gosh, it rained every day this week. And I'm just like, man, I would kill to see the rain right now. So San Antonio, great area. I am a Spurs fan. I loved when Duncan, Ginobili, and Parker were playing, and that was fun. And
That's
so
right there.
Yeah, man. So I would like to move to San Antonio, and I'm available anytime.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I'll just leave it at that.
Right. Yeah, I never been to San Antonio, but when you go to all those LinkedIn events, makes you feel like I've already been in San Antonio. The way people talk about San Antonio, but one of these days I'll fly down there and or take a little drive. And no, I don't think I'll drive. That Texas is huge. I think I'll just fly down there and rent a car.
Yeah, you know, when I was a cadet and at the University of Virginia, I had one of the director of operations. He goes, "You're going to San Antonio, Arnold?" I go, "Yes, sir." He goes, "You're going to visit the Alamo one time and you're never going to go back." Just because you go, you see it, and you're like, all right, there it is. And then you just, you know, you go to the Riverwalk and you don't go visit again.
Awesome.
So,
well, I've been asking you a lot of questions, trying to get to know you a little bit more, know your background. Do you have any questions for me at all, or just going with the questions for you?
sure. So I guess I'll ask one serious and maybe one fun one.
There we go. There we go.
How about so what was your greatest experience active duty when you were in the Navy, if you can share?
Sure.
Maybe your most memorable, where you impacted someone's life in a positive way.
Sure. So I've done a lot of things. One thing that stands out really well with me was Operation Tomodachi. I was on board the USS Essex, and for those that remember, Operation Tomodachi happened, or the tsunami happened in Fukushima, or the earthquake happened in Fukushima was in March 11th of 2011, and I was on board the USS Essex. We just pulled into the port in Malaysia called Kota Kinabalu or something like that. Sounds something really close to that sound. And we pulled in that day. I was going to the hotel with a friend of mine. We turned on TV. We saw a whole bunch of water just coming out of nowhere all across streets, and we're like, wow, that was like Japanese handwriting right there. Because Japanese and Chinese handwriting looks almost exactly the same. But we saw a whole bunch, and next thing we know, Shore Patrol came out and said, "Hey guys, 100% personnel recall. Everyone get back to the ship. Everyone get back to the ship. Everyone's back to the ship by midnight." We're like, "Man, we just got here." Yep, pack yourself and back up again. Jump on board the ship, and we took off that next morning, like at 6 o'clock in the morning. Everybody's back on board, thankfully, and we hightailed up the north, south, west, east, the western side of the Pacific Ocean, basically the western side of Japan, came up around between the island of Hokkaido and northern Japan, came on down in Tokyo Bay, and that's where we went ahead and provided some HADR relief, or humanitarian assistance disaster relief, and just pulling into the port of the Bay of Tokyo. Wow, I never seen rooftops of houses just floating out in the water as the ship is coming into the bay. You see a bunch of pieces of wood coming out into the water. It's unreal. And you watch some of the TV we have being displayed on the ship's TV, and learn more about it. You read a little bit more about the internet, and of course, on our way there, we picked up a whole bunch of relief supplies. We picked up a whole bunch of just wait a minute. We picked up a whole bunch of relief to pull a whole bunch of gas on board, kind of thing. Because the ship was already designed to have bulldozers and your LCACs on board, your landing craft air cushions, basically your hovercrafts to go from sea to land, kind of thing. And what do you do when you pull in port? Well, you got to get off. Some people are able to get off the ship and provide assistance to those who are on the ground. And those people make a huge impact, and it was huge. I never thought I would see tops of houses coming out in the ocean. But it's kind of ironic. I was also in Japan for the first tsunami as well. Tsunami that when it hit down in around Easter of 2004. I was on my first ship at that time, the USS Blue Ridge. And that tsunami hit down around Indonesia area. I forgot the exact city area. But down right there as well, we went around and we did tsunami relief. Went around and visited a whole bunch of different countries. And something that I'll never forget is we went out and we did a ComRel, or community relations thing, a volunteer for it. And we're out doing a beach cleanup. I think it was Kamala Beach over in Thailand. And the police station that was right there got completely thrashed with all the waves of water coming through. We're doing a beach cleanup, and we're picking a bunch of debris and everything, and found someone's passport in the sand below all that. Probably a month or two later, it was like, wow, it's just amazing. You can't put together everything that could have happened you saw on TV, and now you see it in person. The after effects is just unreal.
Yeah.
So I guess I've been fortunate to be on two ships in Japan during both tsunami events that happened. So that's kind of weird, I think, but
yeah, but you got to do a lot of positive things and help out a community.
Immensely.
Yeah. Well, how about tomzacher? What's your superpower if you had to have one? Probably underwater breathing, because you're a Navy guy, right?
No, actually, I didn't learn how to scuba dive till I took a trip to Hawaii for a week.
Nice.
We dive over there, which is awesome. But I think probably my ability to connect with a bunch of random people and pull up a conversation with them and be a huge extrovert and talk about things. For example, I never met you in person, and here we are talking on video today. We talked on about an hour and a half, maybe yesterday we talked.
Yeah.
And I get on these different networking events and just share a bunch of information about myself.
Yeah.
Well,
it takes a lot of time, man, and I appreciate it. I'm sure a lot of other folks do. So
right on. So my last question for you is, what can I do to help you, if anything? Or or how can I assist you with your transition at all?
Yeah. I guess, I don't know. I'd appreciate maybe getting to know some more folks in the LinkedIn Mill City, I guess, admin group. Maybe tag me in some stuff. Just looking to network in the San Antonio area, man, and meet some cool people. And I've already done that. And again appreciate what you guys do. And yeah, just keep throwing my name out there. If you see something that you think would interest me, just hey, yeah, feel free to tag me and include me. So
Sounds great. I can do that. That's easy.
perfect. Not too much to ask.
Well, hey Tyler, great getting to know you. Hopefully everyone has been able to get a conversation behind a picture of who you are on LinkedIn,
Sure.
and we can put a person behind the picture and see who everyone know who you are. So thanks so much for having time today. Really appreciate you being available today.
Thanks, man. Yeah, appreciate your time. And yeah, thanks to everybody who checked out the video.
Awesome. All right, bro. Take care, bud.
All righty. See ya.